Good afternoon. This is Board Chair Linda Chinya, and I'd like to welcome you all to a public board meeting of the Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners. Just a reminder to folks, if you have not done so yet, please to mute your phones. I'm going to now do a roll call of the board to identify who's on the call. And board members, please remember as we go through the meeting to identify yourself so that I will know for the record who is speaking. And I will do the roll call for each of the votes. So Commissioner Bondima, are you here? Okay. Commissioner Brooks?
Bondima's here.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Brooks? Okay. Commissioner Frank? Commissioner James Hassan?
Present.
Okay. Commissioner Lynn? Commissioner McFadden?
Yes, I'm here.
Good. Commissioner Reed? Commissioner Rick?
I'm here.
Okay. Commissioner Roberts?
Present.
Okay. And here, I am counting 6 commissioners here, 4 are absent. Okay. 1, 2, 2. Okay. Is there a motion to reopen the meeting?
So moved, Richardson.
Thank you. Is
Okay.
there a second?
Second, Bondima.
Thank you. Okay. All those in favor, here I go again. Commissioner Bondima?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
All righty. Commissioner James Hassan?
Yes.
Matt?
Move approval. Yes.
Frank, are you
Did you say Frank?
in favor of reopening the meeting?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Reed, is he here yet? Okay, Commissioner Richardson?
I'm here and can hardly hear you.
Okay. I'll talk louder. Okay. Commissioner Roberts?
Yes.
Okay. In favor? I have 7. Anyone opposed? And no abstaining. There are 3 and 3 absent. Is there a motion? Is Commissioner Lynn on board yet? Not, is there a motion to approve the prior open session meetings and also the closed session summaries?
Bondima, so moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, James.
Thank you. And those in favor, Commissioner Bondima? Yes?
Yes,
Okay. Commissioner Frank?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Commissioner James Hassan?
Yes.
Commissioner McFadden?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts?
Yes.
Okay, I'm in favor. I'm going to check one more time. Has Commissioner Brooks or Reed joined us?
Yes, Commissioner Brooks is here.
Okay, are you in favor of the motion that was just made about the minutes?
Yes.
Okay. So I have no one opposed and no abstention, so I have 8 in favor and 2, one absent for this one because it's a combined. Alrighty. Thank you. For my, in terms of board chair comments, I just want to thank everyone for your patience as we are continuing to work through our virtual meetings. And just a reminder again, if you are not speaking, if you could keep your phone on mute, that will help us in terms of the extra sounds that we will hear. So at this time, I'm going to move to the for a motion to approve the personnel, employment, payroll, the PEP, and the quasi judicial matters.
So moved, Richardson.
Okay, is there a second?
Frank, second.
Thank you. And all those in favor, Commissioner Bondima?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Brooks? Commissioner Frank?
Yes.
Commissioner James Hassan?
Yes.
Okay. McFadden?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
And Commissioner Roberts?
Yes.
And I'm in favor. Is Commissioner Brooks still there or not? Or Reed?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So anyone opposed? Any abstained? That is 8 and 1 absent, and the motion carries. Okay. I'm going to, at this point, then review the consent agenda. Board colleagues, please let me know if you would like an item removed, and please state your question for the staff so that we can have them prepared for this. We are going to start with item 6.01. which is a memorandum of agreement with Coppin Academy. 6.02, FY 2021 budget. 6.03, general fund supplemental appropriation. 6.04, the budget amendment request. 6.05, the calendar update waiver request.
Madam Chair, if we could pull that
Yes.
simply for a statement to the public about why the board is voting for something that happened in April. Thank you.
Yes. Sorry, 11.01, Haggerty Phonemic Awareness. 11.02, Great Minds, PBC. 11.03, Achievement Network, ANET. 11.04, Supplemental Instructional Materials. 11.05, Acoben, LLC. 12.01, Baltimore City Health Department. 12.02, Schmidt Baking Company. 14.01, Multi-Trade Building Renovation and Repair Services. 14.02, Denver Incorporated. Okay, so we have removed one item, and that's 6.05. So thank you. At this time, we're going to move into public comment. And we have speakers from recognized groups who will have an opportunity to speak for 5 minutes. And then the board executive will read the first up to 10 emails that we've received for public comment. Mr. Corey Gaber will be representing the Baltimore Teachers Union. And welcome, Mr. Gaber.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Corey Gaber, and I'm an elementary school vice president on the BTU executive board. First off, I wanted to shout out board member Joshua Lin, whose segment on CBS this weekend highlighted an incredible young man that we're lucky to have as a representative of city schools. Please check out that segment if you've not already. As we struggle to feed our community, close the digital divide, and provide instruction and social emotional support while juggling overwhelming challenges in our personal lives, the COVID crisis tends to narrow our field of vision onto the survival needs of the here and now. This is understandable, and at the same time, we cannot let the structures which lift up the voices of students, PSRPs, teachers, parents, and community members become a casualty to our daily challenges. As budgets for next school year are shared with school communities, we at the BTU have received a number of concerning communications from staff, students, and parents which tell stories of democratic processes falling by the wayside. I hope to recenter a fundamental question facing public schools right now. Who has the power to decide what happens inside of a school building? Board regulation KCA-RA states that, quote, as part of the budget process, the principal shall share information about the budget with parent and community members and the school community, and shall provide opportunities for parent and community input on the school's budget priorities. The principal remains responsible for determining what is included in the budget, which is submitted to the CEO for approval, and nothing in this policy shall be construed to alter that responsibility, unquote. Many principals in city schools have created robust, democratic, and transparent mechanisms to engage school family councils and all school constituencies to ensure their budget reflects the values and will of the community it serves. Others have simply ignored this regulation, leaving staff members, students, and parents shocked to see budgetary decisions that do not reflect their input at all, if their input was even solicited. With fall learning expected to look very different, COVID-19 adds another engagement challenge, being unable to meet physically in the school building. When you combine this reality with the digital divide, it could mean a 2020-2021 school year where the communities most impacted by decades of racist public policy and disinvestment are least able to have a say in the allocation of resources in their school. So what do we do about this significant equity challenge? BTU poses the following questions to the board in order to best answer. What district data exists on how many school family councils are active? What is the range and average number of meetings held and participation rates at said meetings across the district? When that data is disaggregated, how does it map out based on geographical location in the city and demographics of the families served? What practices are principals utilizing who have achieved deep and wide engagement with their school communities? How can we lift up and duplicate their outcomes elsewhere? While regulation KCRA does state that the school family councils will meet throughout the year at flexible times, be open to the public, be promoted in advance, and have minutes taken and shared, I don't see any language saying what the consequences will be for not doing these things. What happens to principals who do not hold and promote these meetings, do not take minutes and share them, and do not gather input on school budgets before making them? How would the power dynamics in school buildings change if all major stakeholders were required to sign off on budgets, rather than giving principals the authority to ignore educator, parent, and student input? The BTU suggests the following next steps and timeline. Between now and the next school board meeting on May 26th, the district gathers the data requested in earlier questions. Between May 26th and June 9th, that data is shared publicly and used to identify thriving communities, particularly the ones serving high levels of historically oppressed learners. Between June 9th and July 14th, the school board and district leadership collaborate with PCAB, Pizzazza, and BTU to convene a work group who will be tasked with the following over the summer. Create a school family council toolkit that can be made publicly available, including information about the budgetary calendar for the year, important benchmarks by which submissions must be made, and resources for maximizing staff, student, and parent voice. Analyze board policy KCA and board regulation KCRA to see where accountability can be inserted to ensure fidelity to the spirit behind the language, and come up with a plan to ensure democracy and community input during the 2020-2021 school year, where learning conditions will be dramatically different due to the COVID crisis. I welcome the board's thoughts on these issues and questions, And please know that our push here is accompanied by a true commitment to put work and time towards solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. As always, Mr. Gabriel, we could have your comments in writing. I will say the push with our budget process over the past few years has been to really have that input. And I would suggest if anyone knows of places where that's not happening, we would encourage you to please let us know because that is not the intent. But if we could get your comments in writing, we will respond.
I will send those immediately. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a message that at this point, I believe there are no other folks who have sent emails for public comment. And so if not, then I'm going to move back to the consent agenda and ask if was there anything from the comments that we've had that would have board members want to pull any other items from the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, I may be on late, but I'd like to pull 1101, 2.
And can you 1101 and 1102?
And 1103.
And can you tell us why so that staff can respond?
I'd like to learn a fair amount from Ms. Lane about the dynamics of Eureka, and ANET. They're the two programs. One's called Eureka, and the other's called ANET. I'd like to learn about those.
I'm having trouble with audio. I'm going to hope that you just want information about the actual programs, materials. Yeah. Okay, I have the three. Okay, 1101, 1102, 1103, along with 6.05. So with that is
Madam,
a motion. Excuse me?
Madam Chair. It's Commissioner Roberts. Could you pull 6.02, the budget, for a vote?
.02. Okay. Hearing that, is there a motion to accept the other items from the consent agenda?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second, James Hassan.
Thank you. Okay. And those in favor, Commissioner Bondima? Is she? Okay, Commissioner Brooks? Commissioner Frank?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner James Hassan?
Yes.
Commissioner McFadden?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. Please don't hate me. What is this vote for?
For the consent agenda.
Okay, yes.
Okay. And I'm in favor. Is Commissioner Bondima back? Is she here? Or Commissioner Brooks? Okay. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Yes.
Is that Commissioner Brooks?
Yeah, Madam Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes, I agree with the
Consent agenda. Okay. So we have 8 in favor and
Can you hear me now? This is Bondima.
yes. Uh-huh. Are
Okay,
you in favor of the consent agenda?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Okay, thank you. 9 in favor and 1 absent. I'm sorry, 9 in favor.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Okay, so now I'm gonna look at the items that were pulled from the consent agenda, and the first item was, 6.01, 6.02, I believe, for the budget. You wanted it pulled for the vote, was that it, Commissioner Roberts?
Yes.
Was it, okay. Was there any particular question you had, or just want the vote?
No particular question. During the 3x3 that we had, there were a couple requests of some pullouts that could potentially be added as a part of the presentations and potentially the budget actual construct for next fiscal year to show where the district included more community feedback and really see where those where the dollars were allotted towards the priority areas.
Okay, so did you want staff response to that? That's what I'm asking.
No, that was just an overview of what we talked about in the 3x3, but I just want to pull it for the vote.
Okay, so then is there a motion to approve item 6.02, which is the FY 2021 budget?
Frank, move approval.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Bundima.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favor, Commissioner Bundima,
Yes, please.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes, I'm in agreement.
Commissioner Frank,
Yes.
Commissioner James Hassan,
Yes.
Commissioner McFadden,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts. No. Okay, and I'm in favor. Any opposed? Any abstained?
I'm abstaining, Robert.
Okay, got it. Okay, so we have 9 in favor, 1 abstention. The motion passes.
Madam Chair, that's 8 in favor.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay, the other item that was also pulled was 6.05. The FY the school year 2019-2020 calendar update and waiver request. And I think we'd like to have this, if staff could just give us some justification about this particular request and some information.
Good evening. Go ahead, Allison.
Sure, I'm happy to jump in unless Dr. Santelises wanted to jump in, but I'm happy to. Okay, so Jess, I might need your support. We are proposing changes to the calendar. We are going to seek a waiver from the state that if it was granted, it would change the last day of school for students to be June 15th, but then the last day of for teachers would remain on June 23rd. In between that time, we would provide professional learning opportunities for teachers, helping getting us ready for more distance learning next year. We are going to, under this proposal, also June 2nd would remain a day when, as planned, when the district office and schools are closed for the election, for the primary election. If this waiver is granted by the state, it is our hope to then continue to work with our union partners to think about how to best leverage this time to support our students and support our our planning for next year. So that could include use of some of this of the time this year to help add instructional time for students next year, or use it as professional learning opportunities next year. But we would work with our union partners on that.
Thank you, Chief Perkins Cohen. My apologies. My mute button was not unpaused, but you stated very concisely and directly what I was going to say. So thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Roberts.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Can you?
Yes.
I can't hear myself.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. So yesterday, the communication went out about the last day of school being June 22nd. And today we are voting on the district submitting a waiver for the last day of school to be potentially June the 15th. I guess I just need some clarification around why the correspondence went out yesterday to families about the last day being June the 22nd, and today we're voting on a potential waiver to change the date. From the parent side, that can be very confusing, and I remember when that happened a few years back, or maybe not even that far back, when there's multiple dates kind of out there around the school closing or opening. I want to say the last time was maybe with outside of the spring break this school year, but with I believe it was President's Day the last time. My question here is, could that correspondence have been sent out after the waiver had been submitted and we had like an actual confirmed last date?
Yeah, I would just say, Commissioner Roberts, that part of what happened was basically a mistake. And what I did on the town hall we had today, and I will say again this evening, is just extended apologies. Some of what occurred was a fast-moving communication, and we internally had to get clarity around the date. So, one, we wanted to make sure that families knew that the actual date, pending both the Baltimore City Board of Commissioners vote this evening and the state board accepting the waiver, right? It still means until both those things happen that June 22nd will be the day that school would close. And there was communication kind of back and forth with some families interpreting the June 15th possibility as being final. And so wanting to go out and make sure that families knew that actually it's not final, and tonight's vote will determine whether it's final, as well as subsequent decisions on waivers made by the state board will determine whether it's final. So it was admittedly choppy. I myself apologized today during our virtual town hall. And so I fully acknowledge and would not try to obscure the fact that absolutely communication could have been clearer. It was a misstep, but we're working now to rectify that.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Commissioner Frank, did you want to? Okay.
No.
Okay. And I will also add that there have been some messages and requests that have actually gone out by way of Facebook and emails that have caused some of that confusion too, in terms of asking the system to consider the change, so that some folks are really getting confused as to the date. So with that in mind, is there a motion to approve this calendar update and waiver request?
So moved, Richardson.
Is that Richardson? Okay, is there a second?
Frank?
Second, Brooks.
Thank you. I think I heard Frank, and so I will, all those in favor. Commissioner Bondima?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Commissioner Frank?
Yes.
Commissioner James Hassan?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner McFadden?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts?
Yes.
I'm in favor. I'm going to check one more time. I just want to make sure Commissioner Lynn isn't with us. Okay. No one opposed or abstained, so that is 9, and that motion passes. Okay, the next items that we removed were 11.1, 11.2, 11.3, and I believe would be the same, coming from the same source in terms of some clarity here. Is there a staff person for the chief academic office that can answer those, talk about those for us?
Yes, Commissioner Chinia, Janice Lane, Executive Director of Teaching and Learning.
Hi there.
How are you? I just joined. We were on another call, so I just want to clarify the question. Is there a specific question or just talk about the relationship between? Could you just repeat that for me, please?
Yeah, the question came from Vernon Reed. This is Vernon Reed. The Haggerty program in terms of the phonemic awareness, that's tremendous. So is the Eureka for the math. But I guess my question in terms of the Haggerty, maybe I should have talked to teaching and learning first, but I need to be educated a little bit in terms of level of evidence, what that means. And I guess the other question relates to the dovetailing of Eureka versus the ANET. Eureka costs less than ANET. Eureka's the program and ANET's the service. Is that usual case where the service costs more than the program?
Perfect. So I can give some framing information around that. Thank you for clarifying the question. First, I'll address Haggerty, which is a phonemic awareness program. And it is a research-based program that complements our foundations program. So phonemic awareness it provides a scope and sequence of 8 skills that teachers work in whole group settings. You may know phonemic awareness is around the auditory skill and development. So really helping students understand the spoken word, individual sounds and phonemes within a word. So it's a precursor to phonics work. It helps students identify how to isolate sounds, blend sounds, segment sounds, manipulate sounds. And it is a program that allows teachers to interact with students in that platform. So it's a teacher resource tool that complements and supports our foundation's science of reading work that we're doing around phonics and the pieces there. So it's an opportunity to make sure that students get those early prerequisites as they continue to learn and move forward. Second, when we talk about Eureka, Eureka is actually our curriculum. It is the opportunity for teachers to utilize the workbooks and the online platforms that come with professional development and training. Eureka provides the math scope and sequence for our teachers and for our students by grade level. ANET is actually the assessment platform. So ANET works in close alignment. They are actually assessments that are created and aligned to the scope and sequence of Eureka curriculum. It is an assessment that we use 4 times during the year. It also provides progress monitoring throughout the year. We practice data cycles with our school leaders, with our teachers to really understand how students are performing and then how to target instruction. There are additional resources within ANET like quiz tools, enrichment activities, and resources that teachers can diagnose where students are and provide targeted instruction to either remediate, accelerate, and really focus the day-to-day instruction. It allows us to track students' progress and make instructional decisions from that point. In Great Minds, what we had in the curriculum is there are assessments embedded, but they are more open-ended. They don't always align to the same rigorous demands of the state assessments. So things like digital access, et cetera. So bringing ANET to the table provides that as a full continuum and platform for our students.
The last question is, are we using other Louisiana initiatives? Looks like the idea of Eureka and ANET was big in Louisiana.
You've got mail.
Are we doing more of that?
So we have used Eureka now. This is going into year 3 of Eureka implementation and year 2 of ANET. Very similar. A lot of the work that you're seeing out of Louisiana and the national trend work there is alignment work of high quality curriculum with high quality assessments. So you'll see a lot of pairing for that. And when you look at that pairing, how things are coming together from states like Louisiana and other states that are looking at not only recommending the high quality curriculum, but ensuring that assessments are aligned to that. And just for a clarity purpose, we actually are in year 3 of ANET as well. So that came in as a pairing together. So year 3 for both.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Are there any other questions? If not, can we do these 3 together then? Is that okay, Commissioner Reed?
Absolutely.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve 1101, 1102, and 1103?
So moved.
Okay. Commissioner Reed, is there a second?
Second.
Second.
McFadden, okay. Okay, and all those in favor, Commissioner Bondima,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Frank,
Yes.
Commissioner James Hassan,
Yes.
Commissioner McFadden,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm in favor. No one's opposed, no abstentions, so that's 9 in favor. These 3 items are approved. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lane.
Anytime.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay. We have for information and discussion, we have one written update under the information discussion item, and that's a name change request from Hollibird. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to the Office of New Schools Initiatives for presentation on the operator renewal.
Good afternoon. It's Angela Alvarez, the Executive Director of the Office of New Initiatives.
Hi, and this is Trevor Roberts. I'm a specialist in the Office of New Initiatives.
So as you guys know, on an annual basis, we conduct a review process of our charter and other operator-led schools. It typically begins in the penultimate year of the contract and then completes in that final year. So schools going through the upcoming round of renewal have contracts that would end on June 30th, 2021. Typically, we have a process where we debrief with stakeholders, including operators, between March and May. And at this time, we would be presenting sort of the final process to be consistent with any changes based on state assessments or feedback that we've heard, and then begin the process starting in June, with the board then voting in the following January on the renewal process. We were in the early stages of doing the debriefing when the COVID-19 led to social distancing and closure of schools. And so we weren't able to actually hold our sessions with operators and other stakeholder groups because of that. Additionally, the transition to distance learning means certain data points that we would use in the renewal process will now be incomplete or unavailable. For example, schools are not taking the state assessment. So this year's state assessment would be what would be typically considered when they came around for renewal in the fall. Additionally, attendance is impacted obviously by the school closures and our new distance learning that we're conducting here. Suspension data, satisfaction surveys are not able to be conducted. Also, the school effectiveness reviews were interrupted. We were able to do one before the closures occurred, and we've not been able to hold our Office of Special Education site visits. So due to that, we think what makes sense is that we postpone the renewal process until we have a better understanding of the implications of this March through June period and what to do about those, and have had a chance to engage with operators. We also need to be able to actually schedule the SER and special education visits when schools reopen, and they need to be cognizant of any differences in how we're doing the learning based on any lingering COVID-19 implications. And so we will conduct a debriefing session once we have a better understanding of the challenges and can get some ideas around solutions. These are just a list of schools that are would have been up for renewal, whose contracts are set to end at the end of next school year, June 30th, 2021. And this is the next set, 21 to 22. What we're recommending to the board is that you guys approve postponing the school year 2021 renewal process to school year 21-22, and that we extend the contract of the schools whose contracts would normally end on June 30th, 2021 by 1 year, so that they end on June 30th, 2022. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Alvarez? Is this an action that the board will be doing this evening, or will this come at another meeting?
It's going to come back to you for a vote on May 26th.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner McFadden.
Ms. Alvarez, Angela, thank you for the presentation. I'm just curious with this. Can you just talk a little bit about how we'll continue to monitor the progress even in this year? I know that you'll be working through, ways to move forward given we're in the COVID crisis, but will this upcoming year also be factored into the renewal process? I'm sure it will, but can you just talk a little bit more about how we'll continue to monitor the progress of the schools that are up for renewal this year, given this extra year that they'll be provided if we vote in favor of this?
Yep. So we continue to monitor the same things that we monitor when schools are in session. We've been continuing to provide guidance to schools. We just provided updated guidance on attendance, for example, to schools for how to take that during this distance learning period of time. And so we're in consistent communication. Certain requirements stay in force during this time, but it's different. It's different in terms of students who are able to engage during this time. Student families are experiencing differences. So there may be students who during a normal school year may have been harder to reach because of concerns, or who in some instances we're seeing are more able to be engaged. And then the opposite is true. There's students who during a normal school year are fully engaged and attending every day, but in COVID-19, there may have been disruptions. And so there's a lot of things that we're still trying to work through. So we continue to have regular communications with schools. There's daily kind of actually messaging that goes out. We've been having regular meetings and check-ins with schools. So all of those things are happening. I think we have to make sure that once we get to a point of understanding the full implications of COVID, that we can come up with solutions that make sense, and that we do that through engaging with you guys as the board as part of our stakeholder group, as well as the charter and operator-led schools advisory board is an important stakeholder group. PCAP participates in that, CCAP, and the operators themselves. So it's important that we, once this closes out and we've made some decisions as a district around how we're handling certain reporting requirements, that will then give us space to figure out how we consider this year, given some of the challenges.
I appreciate that. You're always so thoughtful. With that in mind, do we have the capacity internally to, does your office have the capacity internally to go through, so it would be the schools that were up for renewal 2021 in addition to the 22 schools, right?
Yes.
So do we have the internal capacity to manage that work? Because that would be an additional, that would be a lot. I'm just wondering. So do we have that capacity? And are there needs that you need and your office needs to manage this process?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. If we end up, I'm trying to remember the school count. And then Trevor, do you remember what the count is if it's all of them in 21, 22?
It would be a total of 14 schools.
14 schools. So that's something we've handled, you know, in another renewal. So that's doable for us, and as well as for the SER team and the special education team in terms of the site visits if it's 14 schools. So that's absolutely manageable. It wouldn't require anything special of us to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, is that Commissioner James Hassan?
Yes, it is. So thank you, Ms. Alvarez and team for this work. Just quick, and maybe I missed a piece in all of it, but what about new applications? Are there any consideration, or how are we dealing with new applications for charters?
Yeah, for new applications, we've pushed the deadline back because we would have received new applications at the time that the buildings were closed. So we've adjusted the timeline to push it back into the summer. We are also simultaneously going to be requesting a waiver from the state in case there continues to be challenges with the process. We're expecting 4 applications that are conversion applications of existing schools. And so we want to make sure, because we're talking about existing school communities, it's important, this is a community-driven process, that the community has access to participate. And so in this virtual environment, that limits the participation of certain people. And so that's something that we're trying to thoughtfully contend with. So that's why we are also, at the same time as we're trying to move forward, because we are excited about those applications, contemplate we're also requesting the possibility of delaying it till next year as well.
Thank you.
For similar reasons.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other? Okay. If not, thank you, Ms. Alvarez. Thank you. And
okay.
As we said, we will vote on this May 26th, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to now turn it over to Dr. Santelises for CEO comments.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Chinya. As we get started, I'm going to invite, excuse me, Chief Grant Skinner to highlight this evening's PEP agenda.
Good evening, Dr. Santelises and commissioners. sharing several appointments this evening. First, Caitlin Brooks, Assistant Principal at Lakeland Elementary Middle School, is appointed Principal at Moravia Park Elementary Middle School effective July 1st. Next, Jamel Crandall, Guidance Counselor at Career Academy, is appointed Assistant Principal at Career Academy effective July 1st. Next, Nakia Barnett, Interim Principal at Pimlico Elementary Middle School, is appointed Principal at Pimlico Elementary Middle School effective July 1st. Teresa Ware, Interim Principal at Collington Square Elementary Middle School, is appointed Principal at Collington Square Elementary Middle School effective July 1st. Dion Medley, Director of Teacher Support and Development, is appointed Director of Related Services effective May 23rd. And finally, Sarah Long, Principal at Federal Hill Preparatory School, is appointed Principal at the Mount Washington School effective July 1st. Thank you. Dr. Santelices, you're on mute.
Thank you very much, Chief Grant Skinner, for that and for the notation about my mute. This evening, I would also like to continue our tradition of reading a bit about our new school leader appointments. First, Caitlin Brooks. Caitlin Brooks served for 2 years as an assistant principal and 1 year as a resident principal at Lakeland Elementary Middle School. Previously, she worked as a literacy staff developer for city schools and a coach and curriculum writer for Teach for America. Mrs. Brooks began her career in education as a teacher at Moravia Park Elementary School. She holds a bachelor's degree in English and political science from the University of Massachusetts Amherst and a master's degree in education from Johns Hopkins University. We congratulate Caitlin on her appointment as principal of Moravia Park Elementary School. Congratulations, Principal Brooks. Woohoo! I know I have to get an applause button that I can play during these. The next is Nakia Barnett. She is originally from Norwalk, Connecticut, where her first teaching experience was in high school as a teacher's assistant in an after-school program at the YMCA. She joined City Schools in 1999 after graduating Morgan State University with a bachelor's degree in elementary education. Ms. Barnett worked her way up in City Schools, serving as a teacher, instructional support teacher, academic dean, assistant principal, and interim principal. We are very pleased that Principal Barnett will continue leading at Pimlico Elementary Middle School. Congratulations, Principal Barnett. Next, Teresa Ware has been with Baltimore City Public Schools for almost 7 years. For the past year, she has served as the interim principal of Collington Square Elementary Middle School. She has previously served as a Title I coordinator, an educational specialist in the Office of Transformation and Turnaround, and a literacy academic content liaison. She has also served as a reading specialist in another district and a Reading First regional specialist for the Maryland State Department of Education. Ms. Ware holds a bachelor's degree in business administration from the University of Maryland, Eastern Shore, and a master's degree in reading education from Bowie State University. And we are pleased that she will continue leading at Collington Square. Congratulations, Principal Ware. And then finally, Sarah Long has been with Baltimore City Schools for 22 years. For the past 7 years, she has served as principal at Federal Hill Preparatory School, where she was instrumental in introducing and implementing the International Baccalaureate program. She has also served as an assistant principal and was a founding member of Monarch Academy. Mrs. Long holds a master's degree in psychology from the University of Baltimore and expects to complete her doctoral program in December of this year. We wish you continued success in your new role as principal at the Mount Washington School. Congratulations, Principal Long. I almost said Dr. Long, which is a good sign. Thank you again, Chief Grant Skinner. So in beginning my remarks tonight, I want to continue to continue on to what we heard from Mr. Gaber earlier this evening. We are incredibly proud of our student commissioner, Joshua Lynn, who represented Baltimore City amazingly on CBS News this morning. It's interesting, and I told someone the story before that when I was speaking to a couple of the reporters and they were asking me a question, I actually began telling the story of the night that Joshua was trying to log into this very meeting, one of our first virtual board meetings. And he had taken time out of work, found a corner somewhere where he could get internet because he knew that his role on the board was important, representing students and young people. And in the middle of, frankly, telling about Joshua, I said, well, actually, you should talk to Joshua himself, because he is an amazing spokesperson for Baltimore City school students, for our district. And I just want to say how very proud we are. And I got calls from family across the country who were telling me, we saw your student from Baltimore City. So Joshua, we are proud of you. You did a fantastic job. And thank you again, not only for the work that you did on CBS News this morning in telling the student story and student perspective, but also for your leadership as student commissioner on the Baltimore City Board of Commissioners. Congratulations. As most people know, last week, State Superintendent Karen Salmon did announce that all school buildings, including school buildings in Baltimore City, would remain closed for the balance of the school year out of concern for the safety of our students. I want to really emphasize that even though school buildings remain closed, that school itself is still in session. Our distance learning will continue on Google Classrooms, Channel 77, Charm City TV, and our teachers will continue to provide the curriculum and support that our students need to finish out the school year. I had the opportunity last week during Teacher Appreciation Week to visit some absolutely fabulous virtual classrooms from a variety of schools across the district. Clearly, some of our strongest teachers there. I saw team teaching, I saw elementary math, I saw an English class. It was truly heartening. And so a big thank you out to all of Baltimore City public school teachers and reminding parents and families that school is not out. As we all witnessed earlier today during this meeting, the Board of Commissioners has approved an earlier stop date, June 15th for Baltimore City public school students and families, but we will await to hear from the state for official approval, so please do stay tuned. And as the Chief of Staff noted earlier, teachers will officially continue until, as of now, for June 23rd, but I do want to let teachers know that we will be working with the Baltimore Teachers Union to see if there are other configurations of that time, either in professional learning or additional time for young people during the fall, but that will be part of our ongoing communication and work with the Baltimore Teachers Union to see if there are other alternatives beyond just continuing professional learning through the 23rd. So please do stay tuned. In terms of tech distribution, I'm very pleased to announce that as of last week, our schools and central office team have distributed more than 11,000 Chromebooks to students who needed them for effective distance learning. Distribution will continue this week, and next week we will begin our second round in the hopes of reaching any students who still need a computer. So if you are a family or a student who has yet to receive a device and you are in need of a device, please reach out via our hotline and or via your school principal. Both are acceptable. Also, I have heard from a handful of families, there may be more, who thought or did place themselves on the list for the first round of distribution and might have been missed. Please let us know that as well. You will also be prioritized in this round 2 of distribution. And if you know of families who are in need of devices but may have concerns about how they might come out to get them or any information, please direct those to your school principal or a teacher or other staff member who is checking in, and we will get that information and make sure that we prioritize you on the second round of device distribution. I also want to take some time right now to thank Mayor Young and the City Council for allocating $3 million to city schools, specifically to bridge the digital divide that we have experienced, the teachers are experiencing, and certainly, and most importantly, that our students and young people are experiencing. This $3 million does enable us to buy more Chromebooks and to support more ways to expand broadband access. I have heard numerous stories from teachers that I'm in contact with who have said, and even today, there is one of our schools who finally reached every single family. Some children had moved to different locations, but the challenge does not end there. Teachers are saying, you know, young people who they may have physically found where they are, but who might be able to check in for 5 or 10 minutes online, but because of the lack of stable broadband are really at a severe disadvantage when it comes to accessing our remote learning opportunities. So just know that we are continuing, like many throughout the city, to advocate for this broadband access. We're advocating also at the state level, and I have even had conversations at the federal level to make sure that we are doing everything possible to expand that. In the meantime, we are thankful to the mayor and the city council for the portion of this $3 million that we can also use to provide families and students with additional access to the internet. I also want to take time tonight to thank the Annie E. Casey Foundation for their support of a consultant on technology and district learning for the district. We have had to scale up incredibly quickly to meet a demand that, quite frankly, was unforeseen in this, that would occur in this particular context. The Annie E. Casey Foundation, I will say, has been a long supporter of city schools, but particularly in the in this administration, they have stepped up yet again in their support of a consultant that will really help us do the strategic, long-term thinking that we need to do here in planning for our technological future. So I want to thank Annie E. Casey for that. And then I also want to thank Accenture that is providing us, Baltimore City Public Schools, with consulting support for a month for free. They are donating those services, and this support will help us actually prepare. Well, sorry, had somebody enter the room. Will actually help us prepare in planning for our future scenarios of when we come back to school, what we will face, how we make sure that we are ready operationally and ready to receive students and staff in a way that is safe and is ensuring our continuity of learning. And then finally, I want to thank all of the Baltimore City public school families who, throughout so much challenge and incredible conditions, continue to press for their children's access to learning. And the numbers of stories that I hear of families who are continuing throughout everything to prioritize the learning of their young people, their children, is heartening, and it speaks to just how important education is to so many families in our city. We see you, I applaud you, and what we are working towards now is making sure that we are set. I had a number of questions today in our Tuesday town hall of families who are rightly concerned about how their young people will make up time that has not been optimal over the past few weeks. We are working now. Again, we have a teacher advisory council that I am going to continue to consult with I think some really thoughtful educators across the district, as well as principals. PCAB I met with last week. They are also chiming in on what would be most helpful. And so we are prioritizing all of the ways that we can support your children, your families, in really making up this time. So thank you, Baltimore City Public School families and students. And that concludes my comments for this evening, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Santelises. And we also want to add that in addition to Commissioner Lynn, who was our TV star, we also had a really great op-ed today that you had in the Sun, and I hope everybody has seen it. It's entitled "Baltimore School CEO, We Will Not Hold Low-Income Students Back Because of Coronavirus." And thank you for your advocacy for our students and our families with that article. Are there any reports from committees, any committee that would like to give an update at this time?
Policy has not met.
Okay. Operations, is there any update you'd like to give? Okay. And teaching and learning?
We had a great meeting, Madam Chair, last week. It was quite substantive. We had an opportunity to hear what the Office of Communications, Family and Community Engagement is doing to support the COVID-19 crisis. That was helpful. There was also quite a bit of feedback from our students or parents and community members that had concerns around English language learners. In our ESOL program. It was given to us in a written update, but it will be on our July Teaching and Learning Committee meeting for a full presentation. So I just wanted to make sure that we raised that here to let the community and public know that our English language learner update will be provided a full presentation at our July Teaching and Learning Committee meeting.
Thank you. Okay. Speaking of that, I'm just going to give the dates for other upcoming meetings. The Operations Committee will meet. These will be virtual meetings continuing on Tuesday, May the 19th at 10:30 a.m. The Policy Committee will be meeting on that same Tuesday, May 19th at 3:30 p.m. The next board meeting, executive session, will be at 3 on May 26th. The public board meeting at 5 o'clock on May 26th. And teaching and learning, as just mentioned, will meet on Tuesday, June 2nd. And those are the upcoming meetings. Is there any other item that or business or comment that we need to make before I will entertain a motion to adjourn? Okay, if not, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner McFadden. Is there a second?
Second, Richardson.
Okay. I'm not going to do the roll call. I'm pretty sure everybody is in agreement with adjournment. I want to thank you all again. Thank you for your flexibility and your patience as we are still perfecting our virtual meetings. If there are any questions or comments, please feel free to, you can always send those to the board office. I will also let you know that some of the work that you will be hearing from our committees as we move forward will be working with our staff and community in terms of thinking of what will happen and how we're going to address the recovery for our students once we hopefully get to our new normal and can return to some of our school buildings. So until then, if there's nothing else, I will say that this meeting is now adjourned, and good evening, everybody, and please stay safe. See you soon. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.